everybody, I'm going to take you through Learning Target 1.3. I can apply order of operations to solve expressions. So you might remember the order of operations and PEMDAS, which is an acronym for the order in which we solve problems. So just a couple of things here as we go through. I'm going to start with some hints. So notice that what I've done is I've changed the P in PEMDAS to a G. And that's because now that we're getting into a little higher math, this G is really incorporating all of these grouping symbols. So parentheses, brackets, braces, absolute value bars, the square root radical sign, and when we have a complex fraction. So all of those go in right up here with this G. So grouping symbols, it's more than parentheses, it's all of those symbols. And then, of course, we have exponents, and then we multiply and divide from left to right, and then we add and subtract from left to right. So some hints, when you've done everything within the parentheses can go away, and I'll show you some examples of that. If you don't see an operation symbol, it always means to multiply. So 3y really means 3 times y. And when you have a more complex problem, you start with the innermost parentheses first and work your way out until you can remove all of them. So in this example, notice that you've got these parentheses on the outside, but the innermost parentheses is actually where we'd start. So we'd start with a 15, and then we'd add our 8. So it'd be 25 plus 5 minus 15 plus 8. So that gives you an example of how we work through those parentheses. So the 15 plus 8 here is still wrapped in parentheses, so we want to do that next, which 15 plus 8. So here I would get 23. So I've got 25 plus 5 minus 23. So here it actually go left to right, 30 minus 23, which gives me a nice whole 7. So starting with parentheses, sometimes you have to go to the parenthesis within the parenthesis. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a peek at, see if I can get rid of these. All right, so we're going to take a peek and jump into some examples here. So if you go down to your page, down to your next page of the notes, let's see. So right here, let's take a look at these level ones. Oops. So our level ones practice together. Notice you've got that little PEMDAS sign, GEMDAS, I call it GEMDAS because we have more information now, but that GEMDAS, starting with grouping symbols, moving to exponents, multiply, divide, add, and subtract. So I'm going to start with letter A. So this one here, I see parentheses, the subtraction sign, and then dividing. So sticking with my grouping symbol first, I have to do 7 minus 2, which is 5. And you're going to notice that I show my work after each. I'll underline the step that I'm doing, and then the remaining parts or pieces to that problem kind of fall to that level. So you'll hear me talking about underlining, falling to the level, and then here finishing this off, 5 divided by 5 would be 1. I also kind of talk about a funnel. When we get to some of our larger problems, step by step, it kind of looks like they're really wide, but they're falling all the way down into our solution, which right here is the number 1. So it's kind of like a funnel. Letter B, 48 divided by 4 plus 4 in parentheses. So right away, the grouping order stands out. 4 plus 4 is an 8. Now, I don't need those parentheses anymore because it was just showing 4 plus 4. So I'm going to drop the parentheses, but the 48 divided by falls right along next to it. So to finish it off, I've got no exponents, but I do have a division. So 48 divided by 8 is 6, and that's my final answer. Again, it's kind of like a funnel. You're finding your solution. Letter C here in parentheses, I'm going to start with that one. I've got 13 minus 8, so that gives me 5. Now, notice if I drop the parentheses, that's okay, but I've got this 7 hanging around out front, which does not make this number 75. Since there's no symbol between the 7 and the parenthesis, it means multiply. So this would actually be 7 times 5, which is 35. Moving on to our next row here, letter D. So for GEMDAS, again, my parentheses stand out right away. So 9 plus 3 needs to be done, and so does the 2 plus 4. So it doesn't matter which parenthesis I do first. I'm just going to go with the left to right thought. 9 plus 3 is 12. 2 plus 4 is 6. And again, I can drop those parentheses, but holding them together is a subtraction sign. So 12 minus 6 is 6. Letter E, right away I draw my attention into the 6 plus 4, which is 10. So my other steps are going to fall to the level of the 10. So I've got a 28 minus 10 divided by 5. Now here, I'm really thinking that I'd like to subtract, but I can't. And the reason I can't is because I need to go from left to right, and I need to follow my order. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. Division comes before subtraction. Now the 28 minus will fall to the same level, which gives me a 26. Squeeze that right in. Letter F, again, my parentheses draw my attention. So 12 minus 5 gives me 7. So I've got 4 plus 7 times 5. Now, again, it feels like we always want to go left to right, but we cannot follow that direction. We have to look for the symbol. We have to look for the operation that comes next. So between adding and multiplying, I know according to GEMDAS that we pick multiplying before adding. So I have to do 7 times 5 first. So the 4 plus 35 finishes us off for 39. Now, level 2, you're going to notice that we have a few more operations to deal with. Let's jump right into letter G. So letter G, I have 3 plus 3 in parentheses. So that's where I'm going to start. PEMDAS or GEMDAS says parentheses first. So 3 plus 3 is 6. Now here in those parentheses, I've done the 3 plus 3. The exponent is carried out for next. So that next spot is my exponents, which 6 times 6 is 36. Remember, 6 to the power of 2 is 6 times 6. Letter H. Here I've got subtraction, multiplying, dividing, but because of the parentheses, we have to start with the 6 minus 4, which is a 2. So I've got 2 times 22 divided by 11. Now here I've got multiplying and dividing, but the rule is we have to go from left to right. So with multiplying, that's where I'm going to start. So I've got 44 divided by 11 falls to that level. 44 divided by 11 is 4. Letter I. Here we've got a few things. I've got division, I've got exponents, multiplying, and subtraction. So grouping symbols are gone. We need to start right here with exponents. So 3 squared is 3 times 3, so that's a 9. So I've got 27 divided by 9 times 2 minus 3. So now, dividing, multiplying, subtraction, if I follow through my steps, exponents are done, but multiplying, dividing has to happen from left to right. So here, 27 divided by 9 is 3. 3 times 2 minus 3 falls to the next level. Continue with my order of operation. I must do the multiplying next. 3 times 2 is 6, minus 3 is 3, my final answer. All right, and finishing off the last row of the level 2s. So let's take a look at letter J. I've got parentheses, a multiplication sign, adding, and an exponent. So I really think we've got all the steps of our GEMDAS here that we can practice. So starting with our parentheses, 8 minus 2 is 6. So my next steps are going to follow next to it. 6 times 6 plus 4 squared. So 4 squared is an exponent, done with a grouping, exponent next. So 4 times squared means the 4 has to repeat itself twice. So 4 squared is like 4 times 4. So that's actually 16. That was my next step. Now, falling right next to it is going to be the 6 times 6 plus 16. So here, I'm multiplying and adding. Multiplying is next. 36 plus 16. So my final step is to add them up. I've got 52 as my final solution. Let's take a look at letter K. Letter K, notice that fraction in there. And before we can divide that fraction, we need to figure out the numerator, what's on top, and the denominator, what's on bottom. So I'm just going to rewrite my fraction bar, and I'm going to start in the top. Okay, so remember in PEMDAS, it's parentheses, brackets, square root. Also, these complex fraction bars fit into this big G, so that's why I'm starting there. On the top, 49 minus 4 is 45. In the denominator, I have 3 plus 2, which is 5. So all of that minus 9. So now division is going to happen first. 45 divided by 5 is 9. 9 minus 9 is 0. You can kind of see my little funnel here. 0, total answer. And last one for today, this letter L. Letter L, it's got a lot going on. I see everything except for exponents. So I've got 4 minus 3 times all of the bracket in here, 4 minus 2 times the parentheses, 6 minus 3, all of that divided by 2. So again, lots of things going on. Let's start at our innermost parentheses, the brackets, but within the brackets, here is where I'm going to start. 6 minus 3, which is 2. So now 2 is inside that parenthesis. I can drop that if I wish. Remember, hanging outside is this 4 minus 2. But since there's no symbol between the parenthesis and the 2, I know that I'm going to be multiplying. So all of this is inside the brackets, divided by 2, and hanging out front is the 4 minus 3. So let's continue working inside of our bracket now. So 4 minus 2 times 2. So now I've got to go 2 times 2, which is 4. So I've got 4 minus 4 in my brackets. Out front, 4 minus 3, and hanging on the end, a divided by 2. So still in my G grouping symbols, I've got 4 minus 4, which is 0. Finally, we can get rid of that. If you want to keep in parentheses, you may. But notice right to the left here, this between the bracket and the negative 3, there's no symbol. So that means there's actually going to be a multiplication sign right there. So I've got 4 minus 3 times 0 divided by 2. So PEMDAS says we have to follow now our multiplying, dividing in order from left to right. So I've got to do this 3 times 0, which is 0. So I've got 4 minus 0 divided by 2. So now I have subtraction and division left. So I have to pick this division. 0 divided by 2 is 0. So my 4 minus falls, and it looks like I have an answer here. 4 minus 0, which is 4. Great, thanks for following along today. There is a lot of steps to some of these here. This is a big funnel. So showing your work is going to be the best way to ensure that you don't miss a step, especially when they get a little bit tricky. Have a great day.